The night Nathaniel first heard the wolf cry, it sounded like the earth itself was breaking, thin, desperate, and swallowed by the dark forests of 1879.
He froze with the axe still in his hands, breath caught halfway between fear and wonder. The plantation woods were not meant for boys like him after sunset. They were said to be full of spirits, snakes, and men who never came back. But this cry was different. It wasn't a threat. It was pain. Nathaniel was 13 years old, enslaved, barefoot in the cold soil of the American frontier, sent out long after dusk to gather firewood because someone else had decided his life was worth less than the night. His wrists ached from the iron cuffs he wore during the day, their ghost still burning into his skin even now. Every sound made his heart stutter, the snapping of twigs, the sigh of wind through pine needles, the distant hoot of an owl that sounded too much like laughter. Then the cry came again. Closer. It was small. Too small to be a full-grown wolf. Nathaniel swallowed. He knew the rules. You don't follow sounds in the dark. You don't help what can kill you. You don't act like your heart belongs to you. But his feet moved anyway, slow and quiet, guided by something older than fear. The woods opened into a shallow ravine, moonlight spilling like silver water between the trees. There, tangled in a hunter's rusted iron trap, lay a wolf pup. Its leg was caught, blood darkening the leaves beneath it. The pup's eyes locked onto Nathaniel's, wide, golden, unblinking. It didn't snarl. It didn't try to bite. It only trembled. Nathaniel knelt without thinking. His hands shook worse than the pup's. He had seen traps before. They crushed bone like dry twigs. Men set them for profit and never stayed to watch what happened next. The metal teeth were clamped tight around the pup's leg, the chain buried deep in the dirt. "Easy," Nathaniel whispered, though he didn't know if the word was meant for the wolf or himself. The pup whimpered when he touched the iron. Nathaniel flinched back, heart racing. One bite and it would be over. No one would care. They would say the woods took him, and life would move on without even a pause. But the pup didn't bite. It only cried again, weaker now, exhaustion bleeding into its small body. Nathaniel wrapped his torn shirt around his hands and pulled with all the strength hunger hadn't stolen from him. The trap wouldn't budge. Panic rose like fire in his chest. Dawn would come. Hunters would come. Wolves didn't get mercy. Neither did boys like him. He grabbed a stone and slammed it against the hinge, again and again, each strike echoing through the forest like a gunshot. He waited between blows, listening for voices, dogs, anything human. Nothing came. The forest held its breath. Finally, with a sharp crack, the hinge bent just enough. Nathaniel pried the jaws open and yanked the pup free. It collapsed instantly, leg mangled, breath shallow. Nathaniel pressed his hands against the wound, warm blood soaking through his fingers. He didn't know why he was crying. He just was. "I won't leave you," he whispered, a promise he had never heard anyone make to him. He tore strips from his shirt and wrapped the leg as best he could, knots clumsy but desperate. When he lifted the pup, it was lighter than he expected. Too light. Hunger had touched it too. Nathaniel carried the wolf deeper into the ravine, away from the trap, away from the path men walked. He hid it beneath a fallen log cushioned with moss and leaves, shielding it from the cold. The pup's breathing steadied, slow and fragile. Only then did Nathaniel realize what he had done. He had stayed too long. The plantation bell would ring before dawn. Missing it meant punishment. Severe punishment. He looked at the pup, its eyes fluttering closed, and felt something tear inside him. Saving it might cost him everything. He left before the sky lightened, memorizing the trees, the curve of the ravine, the smell of damp earth and blood. Every step back felt like betrayal. The next morning, Nathaniel worked with his head down, back burning beneath the overseer's gaze. The whip cracked somewhere behind him, not for him this time, but the sound made his body jerk anyway. All day, his thoughts stayed in the ravine. Was the pup alive? Had its mother found it? Had the hunters? When night came again, Nathaniel slipped away. He brought scraps of bread hidden in his pockets, stolen at great risk. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure the woods could hear it. When he reached the ravine, he froze. Two shapes stood near the fallen log. His blood turned to ice. They were wolves, full-grown, tall, their fur silvered by moonlight, eyes burning like quiet fire. Nathaniel's legs threatened to give out. This was how people died. This was how stories ended. One of the wolves stepped forward, placing itself between Nathaniel and the log. Nathaniel dropped the bread, hands raised, breath shaking. He didn't run. He couldn't. His eyes searched the shadows for the pup. Then, from beneath the log, a small shape stirred. The injured pup crawled forward, dragging its bandaged leg, and let out a soft, broken sound. Not a cry, but something close to recognition. The wolves didn't attack. They watched. The larger one lowered its head slightly, nostrils flaring, catching the scent of blood, cloth, human fear. Time stretched thin. Nathaniel felt the weight of every choice he had ever been denied pressing down on him. Slowly, impossibly, the wolf stepped aside.
Nathaniel understood then that something unseen had begun, a thread pulled tight between two lives never meant to touch. And somewhere beyond the trees, a future neither of them could imagine was already moving toward them.
He did not know yet that one day, when the world finally decided to break him, it would be those same golden eyes staring back through the darkness.
The wolves did not leave when Nathaniel stood there trembling. They stayed, statues carved from moonlight and breath, as if the forest itself were weighing him. The larger wolf's eyes never left his face, not hostile, not kind, measuring. Nathaniel lowered himself slowly to his knees. The cold earth seeped through his skin, grounding him. He slid the bread across the leaves with 2 fingers, then pulled his hands back and waited. His heart hammered so violently he thought it might draw blood on its own. The injured pup reached the bread first, sniffing, then tearing at it with weak urgency. The sound, small teeth ripping crust, felt impossibly loud. The adult wolves did nothing. One sat. The other remained standing, watchful, its breath puffing white in the chill. Minutes passed, or hours. Time lost its edges. When the bread was gone, Nathaniel rose inch by inch and stepped backward. He did not turn his back until the trees swallowed him. Only then did his legs fail him. He collapsed against a trunk, gasping, laughing once in disbelief before clamping his hand over his mouth. He returned the next night, and the night after that. Always careful, always quiet. He brought scraps, water soaked into cloth, bits of stolen fat wrapped in leaves. The wolves watched him every time, never closer, never farther. The pup healed slowly, its bandage replaced again and again by Nathaniel's shaking hands. Its eyes grew brighter, its steps steadier. The forest learned his scent. Weeks passed. Autumn crept in like a slow bruise, spreading across the land. Leaves burned red and gold, then fell, rotting sweetly beneath his feet. Nathaniel's world above ground did not soften. Work grew harsher. Food grew scarcer. The overseer's patience thinned with the daylight. But in the ravine, something gentler was taking shape. One night, the larger wolf approached Nathaniel directly. It stopped so close he could see the scar across its muzzle, pale and old. Nathaniel held still, breath shallow. The wolf sniffed his hands, his chest, his neck. Warm breath, wet nose. Then, with no warning, it turned and walked away. The pup followed. No, not a pup anymore. It limped less now. Its coat had thickened. Before disappearing, it looked back at Nathaniel, head tilted, eyes catching the moon. Something unspoken passed between them. Winter came early that year. Snow fell heavy and wet, muting the world, burying sound and scent alike. Nathaniel's fingers cracked and bled. Nights grew dangerous. Escape attempts were punished harder now. Cold made men crueler. He stopped visiting the ravine when the storms worsened, fearing he would leave tracks, fearing discovery more than loneliness. Then one night, the forest came to him. He was sent to the outer sheds long after dark, breath fogging the air, hands numb around a lantern that barely held its flame. The snow made every shadow strange. He heard something behind him and turned, heart jumping. Eyes glowed at the tree line. 3 shapes emerged, silent as falling ash. Wolves. Nathaniel stumbled back, lantern swinging wildly. "No," he whispered, terror surging. If anyone saw, if dogs were loosed. The wolves stopped just beyond the reach of the light. One stepped forward, the scarred one. It sat, calm as stone. From behind it, another shape moved. The young wolf, the one he had saved, came closer, unafraid, its limp now barely noticeable. It sniffed the air, then Nathaniel's boot, then looked up at him. And it did something impossible. It wagged its tail. Nathaniel sank to his knees in the snow. From that night on, the wolves shadowed him at a distance, never too close, never seen by others. They watched the edges of his world. When men walked paths at night, wolves walked farther out, ghosts among trees. When dogs barked, wolves answered from the hills, drawing them away. Nathaniel did not ask why. He only felt it, an unseen hand steadying the ground beneath him. Until the night, everything shattered. It happened fast. A shout, a gunshot, a man running through snow, panic tearing at his breath. Someone had fled. Someone always did. Dogs were released, baying madly, chains clattering, lanterns sliced the dark. Nathaniel was ordered to join the search. He knew the woods. He knew the ravine. He knew where a desperate boy might run. As the group split, Nathaniel felt it before he saw it. The wolves moving, restless, circling wider than before. The dogs' howls twisted into confusion, then fear. Snow exploded as shapes clashed in the dark. Men shouted. A shot fired wild, hitting nothing. Nathaniel froze. The scarred wolf lunged from the trees, knocking a hound aside without killing it, driving it off course. The younger wolf darted past Nathaniel, eyes flashing, then vanished into the brush, leading, pulling, distracting. "Over there!" someone yelled. Nathaniel didn't move. The chaos spread. Dogs scattered. Men cursed. The search fractured into panic and exhaustion. By dawn, the runaway was gone. The wolves were gone too. So was Nathaniel. He didn't plan it. He didn't pack. He simply stepped into the trees when no one was looking, heart pounding with a terrible, fragile hope. Snow swallowed his tracks. Hunger chased him. Fear walked beside him. When he collapsed in the ravine, breath ragged, vision dimming, he thought of the iron trap, of blood on leaves, of a promise whispered once in the dark. "I won't leave you." Warmth pressed against his side. Fur, breath, bodies curling around him, blocking the wind. The young wolf's head rested against his chest, its heartbeat steady, alive. Nathaniel closed his eyes as the forest wrapped around him, unsure whether he was being saved or carried towards something he could never return from. Nathaniel woke to silence so complete it felt like being buried alive. For a moment he thought he was dead. The cold was gone. The pain in his feet had faded into a distant echo. His eyes fluttered open, and all he saw was white sky fractured by bare branches swaying slowly above him. Breath steamed from his lips. He was alive. He was not alone. The wolves were there, 3 of them, curled close, their bodies forming a living wall against the winter wind. The scarred wolf lay at his back, solid and immovable. The younger wolf was pressed against his chest, rising and falling with each breath he took, as if learning the rhythm of being human. Nathaniel did not move. He was afraid the moment would shatter if he did. Dawn crept through the trees, pale and hesitant. The forest looked different in daylight, less monstrous, more ancient. He realized then that the ravine was not just a hiding place. It was a boundary. Beyond it lay the world that had owned him. Within it, something else waited. Hunger returned first, sharp, relentless. Nathaniel pushed himself upright slowly. The wolves stirred but did not retreat. The young one rose with him, tail flicking once, eyes alert. Together they moved. Days blurred into one another. Nathaniel learned quickly, where ice thinned over streams, where roots could be dug, where rabbits hid beneath brush. He learned the wolves' language without words, the lift of a head, the tightening of muscle, the warning glance thrown back over a shoulder. They hunted. He followed. When food was scarce, the wolves shared. When danger crept close, they warned him. At night they slept together, warmth traded without question. Nathaniel's body grew leaner, harder. The boy who had bent beneath whips began to straighten. But the past did not release him easily. Men searched. Dogs prowled the outer woods. Gunshots echoed from time to time, sharp as memories. Once, smoke rose on the horizon, and Nathaniel knew they were burning ground in widening circles, trying to flush him out. The wolves led him deeper. Winter loosened its grip slowly, unwilling to let go. When the snow finally melted, it revealed a land reshaped by survival. Fallen trees, new paths, bones half buried and bleached. Nathaniel realized he no longer walked like he once had. His steps were lighter, quieter. He watched before moving. He listened before trusting. He was becoming something the world had never prepared a name for. One evening, as the sky burned orange and purple, the scarred wolf stopped suddenly, its ears flattened. The young wolf stiffened beside Nathaniel. Human scent. Nathaniel's heart surged. He tasted fear, metallic and familiar. From the ridge ahead, voices drifted. 2 men, maybe 3. Close, too close. The wolves did not flee. The scarred wolf turned and looked directly at Nathaniel. Not like an animal, like a decision. It stepped toward the ridge, slow and deliberate, exposing itself. The younger wolf followed, then the third. They moved as one, visible, undeniable. Shouts erupted. "Wolves!" A gunshot cracked the air. Dirt exploded near the scarred wolf's paws. Still, it did not run. It held its ground, eyes locked forward, daring the men to follow. Nathaniel understood. "No," he whispered. The young wolf glanced back once, golden eyes steady, unafraid. Then it turned and vanished after the others, drawing the danger away. Nathaniel waited, pressed flat against the earth, every second stretching thin as a blade. More shots, yelling, then silence. He did not see the wolves again that night, or the next, or the one after that. The forest felt suddenly hollow. Sounds returned, birds, insects, wind, but the shape that had moved with him was gone. Nathaniel waited by the ravine until the ache in his chest became unbearable. He never found bodies, never found blood, only tracks leading away, scattered and deliberate, erased where streams crossed rock. Spring arrived. Nathaniel emerged from the forest, thinner, older, eyes carrying something unnameable. He followed rivers. He avoided roads. He worked when he had to, vanished when he was noticed too closely. Slavery still ruled the land, but its grip weakened the farther west he went. Names changed, borders blurred. Years passed. Sometimes at night, when the world grew quiet enough, Nathaniel heard howls echoing from distant hills. He never answered. He didn't need to. He felt them in his bones. He lived. And that, in itself, was a defiance history rarely records. No one wrote his name down. No ledger marked the moment an enslaved boy slipped into freedom with nothing but frost-bitten feet and the memory of fur and breath against his chest. No monument stands where wolves chose mercy over instinct, but the forest remembers. And sometimes, when the wind moves just right, it carries a story too strange to explain and too true to forget. Of a boy who saved a wolf when the world would not save him, and of a wolf that paid that debt in full. If this story stayed with you, if it made you feel the weight of forgotten lives and unseen bonds, then stay here. Remember with us. Because the forgotten cell exists for stories history tried to erase, and as long as they are remembered, they are not truly lost.